This video will focus on the chords on the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th strings. So we will call that 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the lowest chord family of adjacent strings that we can have. And I think sometimes this gets overlooked. This is kind of where I wanted to start on purpose. We're going to start on the 7th chords. So I'm going to start in G flat. So this is the G flat major 7th. And from low to high, it's going to be G flat, D flat, F, and B flat. Now we're going to invert this, and this will form the basis of the chord study. So G flat would go to B flat, D flat to F, F to G flat, and B flat to D flat. And if we continue that, we get D flat, G flat, B flat, and F. And then, of course, we get F, B flat, D flat, and G flat. And then we go back to the first one, an octave up. So if you're not familiar with those, get familiar with those quickly. They're so important, and they're going to form the basis of everything that we're doing. So we start with that. Now, we convert it to dominant by lowering the 7th. The F becomes F flat. We convert it to minor 7 by lowering the B flat to an A, or a B double flat. We lower the 5th, minor 7 flat 5, by taking D flat down to C. And we make it a full diminished by taking that chord and taking the E down to E flat. And that'll give us the full diminished chord on that lower family. We do this for each one of them. So here's the first inversion. That's major 7, dominant, minor, minor 7 flat 5, and diminished. Major 7th, dominant, minor 7th, minor 7 flat 5, and diminished 7. Major 7th, dominant, minor 7th, minor 7 flat 5, and diminished 7th. And we're back home to the major and octave up, the major 7th. Now, the exercise is going to be connecting tones. And this is something Dennis Sandole used to advocate quite a bit. I have another video where I do a jazz standard called All the Things You Are. I do a little bit of that with the melody on each string. But for right now, we want to be able to connect each of the chord inversions on each string with a melody note. In other words, we're going to play scale tones in between the chords. For example, here's the major 7th. I'm going to use the major scale, the G flat major scale. So this B flat is going to go up to C flat. And then we're going to go to the next. We have a D flat in the melody. That's going to go to E flat. Then F in the melody. Then G flat. And then A flat. And back to B flat. So descending, we do the reverse. B flat, A flat. By the way, that gives us a different set of voicings. Okay, we do the same with the D string now. We try to bring the melody now. We have an F. Go back to an E flat, G flat. Move that to A flat. Notice we have a B flat minor 7 now. And we have a B flat in the melody. Then a C flat or a B. And again, here it is with a D flat in the melody, and then an E flat. Reverse, new chords now. Notice B flat minor 7. And an E flat minor 7 there. Now we move the notes on the A string. Same thing. There's B flat minor 7. And then finally the bass note. The B flat minor 7. The B is nice. Flat minor 9 there. Reverse. do that for each chord type. So we do that for dominant, and we use a Mixolydian scale. You know, it could be any scale. But I'll do that on this just to give you an example on the dominant. That's nice. And then here's. Again, each voice, any voice can move. So then the middle voice moves. I should say the alto voice. And if you notice, there's a B flat minor, 7 flat 5. So we could make note of that as a substitute. Nice fourths right there in turn. Okay. It's nice, that kind of a Debussy chord there. I love that one. That's typical of him. Okay, so we move that down. We're on the D string. And we move each voice. Okay? We do this with minor 7 chord. So you can use the Dorian mode. It's a nice A major type chord there that comes out of that by moving the soprano voice. Okay? Notice A major 7 now. There's the Debussy chord. It's nice. And again, we're moving backwards. We move now the tenor voice on the D string. You notice that it looks like an A major 7 now. F sharp to G sharp to A to B, C sharp, D sharp, and then reverse, the D sharp, C sharp, B. Nice fourth C voicing there. And there's an A to D to G sharp to F sharp back. And again, each voice can move. And if you move this tenor voice, you notice you got your A major 7, etc. Moving backwards. Move the bass line. That's nice. And then the minor flat 5. So you use the Locrian mode for that. That's all I'm using. You could use another. That's nice. You get this kind of D major sort of chord right there from it. You get the E, you have the F sharp in the melody, now a G, and then to an A. Now when you move backwards, this is nice. You get a C chord over an F sharp as part of your chords there. There's a D7, so you can know that that relates. D7 relates to G flat or F sharp minor 7 flat 5, etc. And then you move the, I'll move the tenor voice, the alto voice in this case. So regular old A minor 7 there. And what's nice here, there's a C major 7 with a flat 5, so you can make a note of that as a substitute for F sharp minor 7 flat 5, which is common, and we'll go through things like that later. So we're not interested in substitutes right now, but make notes of all these. I would recommend. So for all of them, do that. The diminished is kind of interesting, and we'll deal with this as a separate case, but for right now, let's do it. Just use the diminished scale. So that is a semitone above each tone and a full tone above. So I have an A, I go down to G sharp and then a B, and then I move to the next station. And then pulling it back. And then if we do the alto voice on the D string, we have a D sharp to a D to an F natural. That's nice. And you can see how it relates to a dominant chord. There's a D7, right? And there's an F. And then just prying it loose, the A to A flat, F sharp. sharp to F, and then E flat, etc. And you can do the rest of those. Again, move each voice, okay? The bass is interesting on this one. It's funny because it looks like a diminished to a dominant. And two can move at a time. So, for instance, on the diminished, and experiment with this, we'll get into this a bit later, but for instance, you can move the top note up and also the tenor voice. So, and this is a common structure. For diminished embellishment, you know, that's nice. Okay. So that is the first part of this, and you should really do those with those 5 basic types. We'll expand the types, but for right now, major 7th with connecting tones, dominant 7, minor 7 flat 5, and diminished 7th. And the next piece that we're going to do with these types of chords, we're going to work on embellishment and also string transference with